I don't know how many people have a 2-year-old at home, or maybe know of a 2-year-old. But if you do, you probably know that they're pretty active. They're rambunctious and they're on level 10 just about all day long. And they will put about just anything in their mouth. So about 2 years ago, me and my wife became parents to our son Landon. And when Landon was 1 year old, I was at home with him one day, and we're playing in the living room and wrestling, and it's not uncommon for a 1-year-old to give you a headache. So I put an Advil pill in my pocket. And through the course of us playing, I began to realize that that Advil was no longer in there. So, like any parent, instinctively I started to panic. I'm like, oh my God, what would happen if Landon finds this Advil and swallows it? So I'm tearing across the house. I'm flipping cushions, I'm looking behind chairs, just about any corner that I think that this Advil could have fallen in. And the good news is Landon's okay. He never found the Advil, and I just destroyed his house for an hour for nothing. But I was left with this lingering feeling and just like a bad taste in my mouth. What was I really worried about? What was I really scared about? And the more I started to play it through in my head, I realized, it really had nothing to do with the Advil. Chances are Landon would have been okay if he would have swallowed it. What I started to realize, my fear and how I felt in that moment was wrapped around the symbol of the Advil, the symbol of this teeny tiny little pill. Now, when we think about a pill, we think about medication, we think about alleviation from pain, we think about help and treatment. But for someone like me in my occupation as a probation officer with our opiate court, the symbol of a pill holds a very different meaning for me. It represents loss, represents death, destructions of families and individuals, and this is something I encounter on a weekly basis. So I'm a probation officer for our opiate court, referred to as OEP, or Opiate Extension Program. And before I started working there, 12 years ago, I worked as a caseworker at one of our mental health agencies. And my job at that time was to assist individuals that had severe mental illness as well as addiction needs. And I'd help them get housing, help them get jobs, make sure they're taking their medication, even help them get housing. And that really helped pave the road for my current profession as a probation officer. We're seeing a lot of trends in the court system, and we're seeing a lot of changes throughout the judicial system. And one of the things that we're starting to see is that we're starting to see more of a shift away from this all or nothing, black and white approach to offenses. And we're starting to see that incentive is what builds that motivation. Incentive is what motivates a person to change. So instead of just going this complete punitive approach, now we're starting to see these special programs crop up in these courts. And we're starting to recognize that maybe there are certain communities, certain populations, veterans, mental health, victims of human trafficking, addiction, that may require a more unique approach. And probation, we refer to that as evidence-based practice. And evidence-based practice, I know it's a long word, basically the simple definition of that is using current research and evidence as a foundation for how we operate. Many of you probably don't know this, there's evidence-based practice going on in OSU, there's in hospitals, and just about any arena you can think of. And one of the research trends that we're seeing right now is that when we take an individual that has been using heroin for pretty much their whole entire adult life, and they tell us they are going on 30 days of sobriety in our program, taking them in front of the courtroom, recognizing them in front of the judge, recognizing them in front of the peers is incredibly empowering for that individual. And that is that empowerment that continues to motivate that change. Now, there are aspects of my job that, one of the least favorite things I like to do, and it's my least favorite part of my job, but it is a necessary part of my job, is when I do have to take someone into custody, when I do have to arrest someone. And usually that's a result of a probation violation. Now, I look at that as a therapeutic angle. First of all, jail doesn't help anybody. Jail is not treatment, and it's not even designed for that. But the approach I look at it is, I'd rather see this person alive. I'd rather see this person alive in jail, knowing they're alive, knowing we can meet them in jail and continue those services, knowing that we can meet them after jail and continue to help them recover from a relapse, than to know they overdose and we don't see them again. And this is something that we come across quite often. When you think about the population, you think about the drug of choice of heroin, we've had many deaths in the program, but we've also had many lives restored. So what does probation look like? I know that most of you probably have no idea what a probation officer really does. You probably just know that, hey, it's not something you really want to be on. So basically, when I meet with someone, there's a set list of conditions that they have to follow. And OEP, it's a 2-year program, so they're on 2 years probation with me. And the conditions they follow are usually weekly drug screens, counseling, attending our drug court sessions every week. And my job is to monitor their compliance. Now, you know, there's this misconception, I think, that when we do hear about probation, they think, oh man, all they do is lock people up, and all they do is just report bad things to the judge. Now, when I talked earlier about empowering someone, that holds a lot of weight to me. You know, when yes, I will report to the judge when there's someone that's not doing well. But when I report to the judge and say, hey, John Doe, you know, celebrating 30 days of recovery, 30 days sober, and he hasn't seen that since age 11, and recognizing that person, that is just incredibly inspiring to me. Now, I say we a lot of times because this is not a Ryan Topping model. You know, I'm supported by and support an incredible team. We have, first and foremost, the most important role is the judge in our team. We have treatment providers. We've got program coordinators, an attorney, and myself. And we meet once a week. We staff cases. So let's say, you know, John Doe experienced a traumatic event over the weekend. And his response to that event is he had a relapse. This is a perfect situation where we can bring our knowledge together, bring our experiences, and kind of staff, well, how do we want to respond to this person? You know, we're going to hold the person accountable. We're not going to excuse the behavior, but at the same time, we recognize that, hey, there's a sensitivity to this situation, and how can we help this person? One of the challenges that we experience in this program is stigmas. And when you turn on a movie, you watch TV, you open up a book, in the news, what the media portrays of addiction is not very pretty. It's usually inaccurate, and it's usually fueled by false information. And this very stigma of addiction, stigma of, you know, even whether it's someone in active drug addiction or someone who's in recovery, this negative stigma is something we challenge every week. We challenge it with, you know, the community we work with, and we challenge it even with other professionals. And the ways that we challenge that is by shedding a light on more of the truths and accuracy with addiction. This is an individual. They picked up a criminal charge, and at the end of the day, they're still an individual. And as I'm talking, you'll hear me say individual, you'll hear me say person, person with addiction, recovery, community, population, but you'll never, ever hear me call the person a criminal. At the end of the day, they're either an individual that as a result of their addiction, they picked up a criminal offense, and they're in this program. And by recognizing them as an individual, by eliminating the stigma of what a drug addict is, by, you know, eliminating that stigma, it helps build up trust. Because think about it, you come into a courthouse, you know, with this criminal offense, you know, maybe it's the first time you've ever even tried to pursue sobriety. And you're supposed to basically expose yourself, expose you all of this junk to a probation officer, to a judge, to a treatment court. That's not easy. And by us bringing down our walls, that enables there to be more trust there. One word that I refuse to use, and I won't challenge anybody that ever says it, is the word junkie. We don't work with junkies. We work with a person. We work with a person with a disease. And by embracing that, and by eliminating that, you know, idea of what addiction is, we continue to build up that person's trust with us. Now, one of the things that helped fuel that is my own personal experience. 2 years ago, I experienced my first panic attack. And this was a pretty significant moment in my life, and it was the first time where I found my personal life and professional life intertwined. And as a result of that panic attack, for roughly 2 years, you know, I struggled with anxiety-related problems. And I found myself, you know, in this unique position where I was now on the receiving end of the very exact same services that I was referring clients and probationers to. You know, here I was in my own journey of recovery. It may not have been addiction-related, but it was one of mental health and emotional health. And I was asking for help. And so being in a situation, having a counselor, getting help, you know, relying on a support system of my own and seeing how much that helped me completely reworked this whole lens that I use when I work with probationers. And I started to realize that the only thing that's between me and this person I work with, this person that's on probation with me, is a desk. You know, on a bad day, my symptoms may not result in a relapse, may not result in me picking up a criminal offense. And this is the reality of the people I work with. This is the reality of addiction. I had a coworker that I used to work with that told me once to always ask yourself, what's the trauma? What's the person's story? And by asking that, by challenging yourself and asking, what is this person's trauma? What is this person's story? You start to see more of that person. You start to look past the criminal offense. This person, no matter who they are, didn't wake up one day and decided, hey, you know, I want to live this low every single day. No, there's a story there. So I think back, you know, to my little rugrat. You know, I'm looking through this house, looking for this avenue, I tore it up. And the result, you know, I mean, the house is just a mess. And it made me realize that I turned this house upside down and flipped it upside down looking for this symbol. And it made me realize that the individuals that I work with have to do this on a routine basis. They have to flip their lives upside down for this commitment, committing their 2 years of their lives into a program. That's a huge commitment, and they have to flip their lives upside down as a result of the same exact symbol. So I don't know how many of you have ever gone to your car at the end of the day and you have a little piece of paper on your windshield and you had this realization, oh, I parked somewhere I shouldn't park. Or you're driving down the freeway and you get pulled over for speeding. I think the majority of us at some point have experienced it. And probably most of us would not say we're thankful for it. I'm not thankful for having to pay over $100 and having to go through this whole process, this inconvenience. And I can't ever think of a time where I was thankful for that happening, for picking up a citation. But when I do an assessment with the individuals that are on probation with me, there's a question on that assessment I ask, how do you feel today about what happened? How do you feel today about the day that you were arrested, the day that you were charged with the possession of heroin, the day that you came into this program? And 9 times out of 10, they answer, I'm thankful, I'm blessed. And every time I hear that, it always is just kind of, I almost fall out of my seat because I think, like, man, you're thankful for this citation. You're thankful for the, being arrested by this officer, coming into the court. And when I ask why, they say, it wasn't that they didn't know, it wasn't that they didn't want to stop or that they were satisfied with their current lifestyle. No, absolutely not. They wanted to stop. They just didn't have the resources. They didn't have the motivation. They didn't have the support. They didn't have that extra accountability. So now being in this program where they're receiving that, they truly feel thankful that they now have a second chance. So my call to action to everyone and the challenge that I make for everyone, including myself, look beyond the criminal offense. At some point in your lives, you're going to come across or maybe know someone right now that's going through legal proceedings. You probably know someone now that is in contact with court officials and has run into their own legal problems. Look beyond that. And remember, this is a person. This is a person that, yes, they have this criminal offense, but first and foremost, they are still an individual. And that's my call to action, and it definitely brings back to what my coworker said, that, challenging myself, what is the trauma, and what is this person's story? And by recognizing that, we will continue to build up that trust factor, and I think it will always hold value to why second chance matters and why having these programs in place, having special courts in place, offering a second chance is very important. So that's it.